5 Britons believed kidnapped in Ethiopia may have been abducted by Eritrean forces and taken to a military camp. That claim came from a senior Ethiopian official. However, Eritrea has categorically denied the accusation. The group disappeared in the disputed border region between Eritrea and Ethiopia. There has been no contact with them now for more than 3 days. The 5 Britons, who are embassy officials and their relatives, are believed to have been targeted as they slept. A team of 10 Foreign Office officials have been meeting at the British Embassy in the Ethiopian capital Addis Ababa to try to find the missing travellers. There are claims that a herder saw the hostages in the Afar region in a camp called Aratar. The area is a barren expanse of salt mines and volcanoes. Our East Africa correspondent Adam Minot is in Ethiopia. He says there is still no clear information on the whereabouts of the Britons.
We've certainly had this claim from, as you say, a senior Ethiopian source. He's the president of the Afar region, and it's in the Afar region that the kidnap took place. But there's no corroborating evidence that we're aware of at the moment. And certainly diplomats that I've spoken to have said, well, where's the evidence? We need evidence before we can move in one direction or another. So this, in an environment where there's been very little information, we've really heard nothing now for more than 3 days. Certainly nothing from those who've been kidnapped, nothing from the kidnappers. For want of any information, these rumours tend to start circulating. But this has been the first firm bit of news because the president of the Afar region says he got his information from 2 or maybe more Ethiopians who were initially kidnapped and then were either released or managed to escape. So as I say, in an environment where there's very little news, this has been something which people have been clinging on to.
Adam Minot there. Well, our reporter Philippa Young is outside the Foreign Office in London right now. Philippa, bring us up to date, please.
Nick, well, as we've already mentioned, concern really is mounting for the missing 5 Britons who've been missing now for 4 days. We understand that the British and Ethiopian governments are very much putting their heads together over how to deal with this and taking advice from experts, particularly hostage negotiators, we understand. I understand from one specialist hostage negotiator who was speaking on the BBC Radio 5 Live this morning that he thinks the key really will be negotiating on a very, very local level. One of the issues facing the people trying to bring these Britons home to safety is finding out who precisely it is who's kidnapped them, and then that would lead them obviously to finding out what their demands may be and what their issues may be. He says the key really will be negotiating on a very, very, very local level, perhaps with tribal chiefs and so on, in this very remote area to try to find out exactly how progress can be made. But 4 days in and very, very little contact. Those claims that they have been marched over the border, something up to 18 miles, they were forced to march by anything up to 25 militia who took them, still haven't been confirmed. The Ethiopian ambassador has said he doesn't want to finger point, and the Foreign Office hasn't confirmed those claims.
Philippa, thank you. Well, on the line now from Belgium is Jonathan. He's a kidnap and ransom consultant at Red 24. And for security reasons, we can't actually broadcast his surname. Jonathan, good morning to you. Jonathan?
Morning.
Ah, good morning. Now, this business of what appears to be a kidnap, first of all, you've been familiar with situations similar to this, I gather. The families, it must be desperate time for them.
Yes, it is. It's traditionally there are 2 particularly difficult times for the families. One is before contact is established with the group who are holding the individuals, and when that is established, then one can find out if they are well or not. And also the time before victims are released is a second difficult time, but it's a horrible time for them at the moment.
From your experience, can we be optimistic, do you think, that something awful hasn't happened to these people?
Well, as your correspondent on the ground said, you know, the lack of confirmed information, this is not unusual at the beginning of one of these events. But of concern would be the level of violence that was exercised at the point of abduction. We understand there are reports of cars being destroyed and accommodation being destroyed. But balanced against that is the fact that it does appear that these individuals may be held by a rebel group, which does imply some sort of infrastructure and internal discipline. So I think that might be a comfort factor for the families, but only a limited comfort factor until it is known how they are. And certainly the British government will be briefing the families, but they won't be briefing them on unsubstantiated data, so this is a very difficult time for them.
Now, what might be going on behind the scenes, if one can call it that? We know that Foreign Office officials have gone there. How would this actually be working on the ground?
Well, the first thing is not to destabilize the people who are holding these individuals. It is a very remote and inhospitable area. The logistics of finding an intermediary or finding who these people are is very difficult. Maybe they need to have communications, satellite telephone delivered to them. Certainly there will be a great deal of activity going on, and it is best that such activities are carried on in an atmosphere of discretion for the interest of the safety of the hostages. Whoever they are being held by, unfortunately, they are in a very hazardous situation.
And we talked at the beginning about the families themselves, but as for the hostages themselves, if indeed they are hostages as such, they sound like a pretty tough bunch, don't they? People who will have had some advice and guidance on the dangers of the area they're in?
Yes, well, certainly they would have received information. The Foreign Office website is a good website, and there are other websites such as ours, the commercially available website, which give us the information from all sources, and also individuals can ring us up for a detailed report. But certainly the information that is coming out, I think that if they are being held by a rebel group, it is preferable, if one can say that, to being held by a gang of common criminals. But certainly until more substantiated data comes out, it is speculation.
Jonathan, in Belgium, thank you very much indeed for joining us. And of course, as we get more news on the situation there and the plight of these people, we will bring it straight to you.